This video is about a little box called Playdate.
I love it. What is it?
All right, guys, welcome back to another video. And today we're here to talk about the Playdate console, as you can see here right next to me. And, you know, I got to be honest, when I first heard about the Playdate, because this thing came out a long time ago, over a year ago at this point, I kind of wrote it off. I saw a lot of people talking about it. I saw the trailer. I saw what they were doing with it.
It's a new thing. It plays games.
I already have a thing that plays games.
Me too, but this is a little different.
We wanted to try something different, and so we did the most difficult, different thing that you could possibly.
Let's take another look. Say hello to Playdate.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks. That means a lot. Here's a hand. Playdate fits right there. There's an A button, B button, D-pad, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB-C, all the hits.
And I saw everything about the crank, and I was like, this has to be a gimmick, and I literally ignored it. Didn't care anything about it, haven't looked anything up.
Wait, what's that thing?
That's the
Crank.
It's a crank.
Yeah, seriously, what is it?
The crank. You crank it, like this. It can control the games. It's fun.
And as soon as I, saw the initial trailer and them talking about it, instantly forgot about it and didn't think about it again. That is until a couple of weeks ago when it got brought up to my attention again, and people were talking about all the games that this thing has been created on and all the different games that we now have available and all the updates that they've done and how the system looks and stuff like that. And I got re-interested, and I was like, why did I skip this the first time? Why did I not look into this? And now in 2024, I've got one sitting right next to me, and we're going to talk all about this thing, on what my thoughts are, if it's still worth it in 2024, how it's been going, and if there's still games being released for this thing. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
All right, guys, so the first thing we're going to talk about here is the specs of the actual unit here and the way that this thing looks. So the specs of this, as you can tell, is it has a very small screen on it, but it fits the size of the unit very well. The size of this unit is really small. It really fits in the palm of your hand. And the screen resolution of this thing is 400 by 240. So obviously you guys are thinking, oh, it's a small screen with a small resolution, so games are not going to look that great on it. Well, stay tuned, because that is definitely not the case. But the resolution actually looks really good. And as you can tell, it's all black and white. So there's no color on here. The color palette is literally just black and white. And you're going to see some of these games here later on in the video on what they can actually do and what they look like, and if that holds it back in any sort of way. Now, one of the things that I do wish that they had on here, and they don't have, and a lot of people have said this from day one, is a backlight. So all the days from back in the day where you had a Game Boy and you had to use a worm light, for all of us who remember those worm lights, this does not have a backlight either. So you're going to have to play in a well-lit room. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see the screen. So you're not going to be able to play in the dark or anything like that unless you have a light on. The buttons on this thing feel really, really good. Hitting the A and the B button work really well. But of course, the main thing about this is the actual crank. And I love the way that this thing slides in and out, into the hole and stuff when you're not using it, and pulls out. It feels really sturdy. It feels like it's really well built. And using the cranking games, as we'll get into later, is very, very unique. It's obviously the selling point of the system. It's what they talk about when they advertise this thing. And we're going to get into it more when we talk about the games. But as far as the build quality and how it feels great. It feels really unique, and it really is fun to just crank in games in interesting ways that the games do. The quality of the unit the quality of the sound is really good, and it goes loud enough where I'm not like aching for it to be louder or anything like that. For a small unit of this caliber, it looks really good. And I love, Teenage Engineering is partner with the design of this thing and stuff like that, and I think they did a fantastic job. I love the yellow. It really stands out. It really, really looks good on a shelf. As you can see, I have mine on a little bit of a shelf here, or a little bit of a stand here that I got on Etsy. It looks fantastic. Don't mind if you see a little bit of a slit there on the right hand side. They're sending me a replacement because it unfortunately cracked on the way over here, because this was sent overseas. But regardless, it looks fantastic. You can see the bottom Playdate and stuff like that. It did a great job, and it's a great way to have this, sitting on here. They even have a little slot there on the back, so the case actually can fold open if you want to, like I have it on right now. So you can leave it on standby and see the time. And speaking of the case, you can buy the case for $20, and I think the case is a fantastic item and a must to keep your screen protected. And I love the teal look, and I think it, complements the look of the actual Playdate really, really well. It also has a little home button there on the top right, so you can go home and get to the settings where you can adjust the volume and go home on the console and all that kinds of stuff that you can access the settings on. And then there's also an unlock button on the top where you can go ahead and hit that as well. Now, of course, this isn't going to be the most powerful console in the world with the chipsets that it's running inside, but surprisingly, a lot of games do really, really well, and the graphics department, based on the capabilities of this device, that will be shown off in a little bit. One of the unique things about the Playdate that when it first came out is this whole concept of Season 1.
Okay, so who makes the games?
Some people you've heard of, some people you haven't.
You are so mysterious. I love it. So what are these new games they're working on?
That's the best part. You won't know what you're getting, not until they Wi-Fi themselves into your Playdate. You know that feeling when...
That's a great feeling.
And that's what Playdate is all about. A game appears, and then a week later, you get a new one. It's like a season of TV.
A mystery surprise game that could be basically anything?
Now you're getting it.
How long is the season?
12 weeks, 24 games, all season long. You and her and that guy over there and everyone else will be enjoying these mystery surprise games you can't play anywhere else.
So basically, what happened was when Season 1 rolled out, there was 24 games that were included with the console. And you would have for the first 2 when you first got it, and then you would unlock more as you went on. And the way that it worked is every week you would get 2 more games, so you would always have something to look forward to. And I think that's a great addition. And even to this day, it's not based on when they first released it. If you get your Playdate, you also can still go through Season 1 where you first unlock it and 2 games open up, and then a week later you get 2 more games, so on and so forth for 12 straight weeks. And it just really adds a reason to come back into the system and stuff like that. And I'm really, really happy with the way that that was done. And I'm really upset that they haven't done it Season 2. Now, granted, they have a full-on digital store now, so you can go into your Playdate, and now you can actually access a store where you can buy games from. You can even sideload games from the Echo store, so you can go ahead and download games from developers and stuff like that. There's over 400 games on the Play Store that they have on here, where all the different games and apps that they have available, and even more that you can sideload online. So you have a bunch of different options on getting games for this thing, which is what really impressed me. But I really wish it was a Season 2 because it just makes it exciting. I understand that there's a lot of games on the store that you can download right straight from the device, which is awesome. But it was always cool to look for. It's still cool as I'm looking at it now and unlocking these games to look forward to games coming up. So I really hope that they do a Season 2 and build that excitement, hold some developers off to release these games, and then do a Season 2 because I think it's a fun way to release games and it gets everyone in the community excited because everyone who has one will be unlocking these games at the same time, and I think it's a super cool feature. Now, the first 2 games that you unlock on here that first come with it as you unlock these games is Whitewater and then also Birdseeker. So Whitewater, as you can see here, is a game that you actually are basically riding a surfboard and you're using the crank to go ahead and do tricks in the air and try to land and get the highest score. This game is super addicting. It's a game that I come back to every day and try to crank and get that highest score and stuff like that. A lot of these games that I really gravitate towards are either adventure style games like original Game Boy, like Pokemon and stuff like that, like those types of games where you're going on an adventure, going through towns, doing things. And then games like this that are arcade bite size that you're trying to go for a high score and stuff like that. Shout out to the developers who are actually adding local leaderboards where you can enter your name so you can actually keep high scores with your friends at home, which is super cool. But Whitewater is really addicting. And then Birdseeker is the other one where you're basically going around town and you're looking for birds and you're taking pictures of them. Kind of reminds me of Pokemon Snap in that way. And it's really, really cool. And it's another one that's, the first 2 games that you unlock. And then again, you unlock 22 more games as the season goes on. But there's a ton of games, on this system that you actually get to play that you can download from the store. And there's so many games, like I said, over 400 on the store, a lot more that you can get on the Echo store that developers are making. And there's still games being released today. So even though this thing came out a long time ago, the community on this thing is super strong. There's always new games coming out. They have a coming soon section with always new games on their store. And it's just fantastic to see. I didn't realize how much support this thing had and how many games were actually being developed for this thing. And what's even more important is how many games are actually doing unique things with the crank, like some of these games here. So after you see some of those games, one of the other things that I forgot to mention that I want to touch on before we give you my final thoughts on what I recommend this thing on, if I recommend this to you guys, is I love the OS. You can tell they put a lot of love and care into this device, not only with the design, like I talked about, and how much I love the design of this thing, and how much of a showpiece I think it is to have on a desk or in your collection, but I also think that the games are, that the design of the OS is just super fun to use. You know, having when you buy a game and open up and make this cool sound effect and kind of unwrap, like you're unwrapping a gift every time you get a game, is an awesome experience. And it feels really good, and it really makes the OS fun to use. The sound and the music playing in the background as you're using the OS and navigating through your games and stuff like that, super cool, and I love the way that, you know, the sound that it makes and the music that it's playing, again, makes the OS fun to use. The way that the catalog is set up, where you can see all different categories and stuff like that, super good job on, you know, organizing the catalog, showing new games, games that won awards last year that came out in 2023 when they did the awards for the best games on there. The fact that you could download games straight from there, you know, and access them, which is great. Being able to sideload games really easily by just going on their website, literally dragging and dropping, and then it shows up on the Playdate, like, you know, a few seconds later. Everything is just really, really good when it comes to the OS and the design. I love the sound effects that it has. I love, you know, even when you press a game and you get to see, you know, the description and stuff, the little like burp that it makes. Again, the sounds and the effects and the unwrapping of games and stuff like that, it just makes the OS fun to use, and it really elevates the system on, you know, just having a cool factor, and kind of makes everything go together when it comes to the design and the OS.
So, what do you think?
All right, I'll do it.
Great. Ready for your Playdate?
So guys, as you can tell, I really, really like this thing, and I'm super mad that I didn't get this when it first came out, like everyone else did. But I super think if you're into a device like this, that it's definitely worth the $200, and I would definitely recommend you guys get the case for the $20 add-on. Yes, $200 is obviously expensive. It's not cheap, but there is a ton of games. Again, you get 24 games included. Some of those games are really, really fun. And not only do you get those games included, but there's a bunch of games you can download on their store and a bunch of side-loaded games you can get on itch.io. There's a lot of people who make free games. Some of the games that you saw that are shown here were free. And I love this thing so much, and I'm going to be making a top 20, probably top 20, top 15 list of games on this thing, because there's so many games that I'm going through that I'm liking, and I want to showcase, you know, all the different games that you guys may like on Playdate. So stay tuned for a top 15, top 20 games coming next week on the Playdate with all the different games that you guys can get for this thing that I think are the best that I have played so far. But the way that the developers are using the crank is not, I always thought the crank was going to be a gimmick. Oh, you're just going to move this thing around. Who cares about that? But developers are using them in unique ways. Whitewater, even though it's the first game that you get, super fun way to use the crank. You know, the beer game when you're pouring and you have to stop it so you actually pour it and try to get the highest score. Super unique. You know, games are just doing really cool things to it. And I'm still trying new games every day to make this list for you guys. So we're just getting started. And you would think that a lot of these games that are out here were just going to be really small games, because a lot of them are like 20 megabytes. They're really, really small. But some of these games are actually full-on hour-length games. Some of them are arcade games where you're going to keep coming back to because they're made to be replayed like an arcade game. Some of them are bite-sized, and you just play them for a couple minutes a day, and then you move on to the next one. But that's what makes this system so unique. The games are so much fun to use, and I thought that having it in black and white was going to be a turnoff, that I wasn't going to like the games because, oh, these are not in color. Who the hell wants to go back to black and white? But the screen and the resolution and the black and white games, the way that the developers are making these games, it just looks super good on the screen, and the graphics really impress you every time you see them, because it takes you back to the retro games, and it just makes playing these games super fun. And that really caught me by surprise as well. The only two things that I would say are things that I want improved if there's ever a version 2, or, you know, whatever the case may be, is one, backlit. I think that's fine if the battery life isn't as good as it is on here, because the battery life does last a really long time, even on standby mode, as you can see here hanging out on the case. But even if we don't get that, I would still love to be able to have a backlight so I can play this in the dark and not have to worry about being in an area that actually has, you know, a bright area lit up and stuff like that. And then the other thing is, and this doesn't have to be on their next version, but hopefully it's something that they do, because they haven't released anything after Season 1, and they haven't done a Season 2, and this has been out for a really long time now, is please give us a Season 2. I understand that it's probably a pain to get developers to hold their games back and not release them in the store and coordinate all that, but it makes the community excited. I think it's a really cool way to do things. Everyone gets to unlock their games at the same time, and every week you get something new, and it makes you turn on the Playdate, and it's exciting to see what those games are going to be. And I really hope that that's something that they do again, because I think it was super cool. Even though I wasn't doing it with the rest of the community, because obviously I got this late, so everyone else already did it. The fact that when I open mine up, I also get to see games every week, it makes me excited to keep waiting for new games to show up. I haven't unlocked every single game yet, and every Monday, because that's when I turn mine on, because it's based on when you actually register and turn your device on, I'm excited to see what new games are going to pop up on my Playdate, and it's super awesome. And shout out to the developers who are making all these games and still making games to this day. I hope they continue to do it. Hope this thing is really successful. Obviously, it seems like it has been. And I'm having a blast with this thing. This is definitely one of my favorite small handhelds that are part of my collection. I'm going to have this on by my desk all the time, playing these new games, and always going to be excited to try new developer games, because it's just unique. You don't see games like this. You know, you can't. The games that are on here are going to be using the crank and stuff like that. You're not seeing these games anywhere else. That's what makes it fun too, is that these are exclusive games. You're not going to see games ported on here that you can play anywhere else for the majority of them, because they're using the system in unique ways, or because they're in black and white. How many other systems are in black and white besides the original Game Boy and stuff? No one's making any games for that. So you're going to get a lot of unique games and a lot of system exclusives and stuff, which is really cool. And yeah, I'm having a blast. I can't wait to show you guys my top 15 and top 20 games, to show you guys really what all these games can do. But I definitely urge you guys to check this out. And if you guys have any questions about the Playdate or any of the games and stuff like that, make sure you leave those questions down below, guys. But definitely highly recommended. Check out the link below. And thank you guys for watching. Till next time.